So I just want to take a moment to kind of mark where we are in this really wild and wacky moment in history. This year has been really unlike any other year any of us have ever experienced. And for a lot of us, like our whole worlds are turned upside down. We're all Zooming for this, for one. Normally we'd do like a welcome week or a welcome day, be able to visit campus. But in so many ways, our lives have just kind of been turned upside down, and it's been hard. There's been a lot of loss and just a lot of really difficult things happening this year. And I think in spite of that, finally, after about a year of being in this really difficult place, we might be seeing finally a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel with vaccinations rolling out and with hopes to come back to campus and cases dropping in the US. There's a lot of reasons to be hopeful. And one of the things that gives me a lot of hope and a lot of joy is thinking about all of you future innovators who are going to play really, really important roles in this important space. We've seen just like unreal timescales for bringing innovations to patients, to people who need it, to clinicians. And I think that all of you as future leaders in engineering are going to play a really important role in so many different ways, whether that's having a startup where you're working on mental health, or whether that's working on a medical device, a therapeutic, or even a vaccine. There's so many ways to play a role in this. And I'm just so excited to see how all of you kind of grow into this and go forward to be the change that we really sorely need. And I think COVID has been a reminder that this is an incredibly important space. So very happy to have you here. And we're really excited to welcome you this fall to our bioengineering family. So Dorian already introduced himself, but I'm going to pass the torch to him to give a little introduction.
Okay, so you're now listening to Stephanie. She really runs the program. She'll be the person you get to go to and talk to and have questions, though I'm also one. Sanjay Kumar is the chair of our Department of Bioengineering. And Jana is the department manager, so she also runs the department. So these are all the people you have resources. If you have any questions, oh, by the way, this is me. I just happen to have gray hair now as department chair. And so you're welcome to always contact me. You can make appointments with me, talk to me, whatever. And Stephanie is also the other main point of contact. Okay, so want to move to next. And of course, you have help from the whole Fung team. The MEng is run through the Fung Institute, and they're a bunch of great people who can really help you as well, both in terms of projects and things like that, and also just anything about finding jobs and those sort of things. Okay. And so you have basically two homes. The Fung Institute is just, it's not really quite, it's sort of off campus, but just a little bit. So it's within walking distance. And as we get past COVID, you will have space there to meet and to do things there. And right now we're still virtual, change in this fall. And then our main areas where we work, where the department is and where Steph is in Stanley Hall, right near the mining circle. And I'm over here in the Hearst mining building. Okay.
And so we're also really blessed today to be joined by 4 alumni panelists who will get a chance to hear a little introduction from and have a Q&A session with at the end. We have Gina Myers, Mihir Rajansa, Leela Tanikela, and Dennis Zhang. And so excited to have you. Thanks again for joining. Your perspectives mean so much because I can tell you what I think the program is like, but I don't know what it's like as a student, or what it's like. And now you can kind of see different pathways that they take after the program. I think it's just a really wonderful opportunity. So thank you again. And this is only, we're only going to be here for an hour today. So there's so many other ways to kind of keep in touch and keep communicating with one another moving forward. If you haven't already, I encourage you to download the Whova app. There's conversations happening there. That's where the Fung Institute is housing a lot of the presentations, the documentation, kind of just starting to try to build a community and have everything in one place that you need for your kind of onboarding and decision-making process. I should also mention, I'll be sharing these slides with you. I'll email this to everybody who is admitted at the end of today. And so you'll have links and everything then. So don't worry about taking notes or scrambling anything too much right now. The Fung new admit website is an incredibly important hub for information. So if you have a question, there's an amazing FAQ section there. If you have anything you want to know about your experience as an MEng student, definitely visit that website, take a look, and dig around there. There's also a wonderful group of students and alumni who have agreed to be ambassadors. And so once you visit this link after I send you the presentation, there's a password, it's password protected. It's pretty easy, MEng 2022. But this is a great way to just have a one-on-one conversation or email with someone who can represent the MEng and give you a little bit more of an inside look. For international students, the Berkeley International Office is going to be a really, really important hub for you. So make sure you're getting in touch with them, especially as you're starting to plan and think about visa requirements and travel and all the things. So make sure you reach out to their office and start those lines of communication and starting to get your documentation together, and they'll be an excellent help for you. And of course, there's me, Stephanie. You can email me at bianco@berkeley.edu with any concerns at any point in time. I'm here and happy to help. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to start off with a really brief note about COVID-19. I know it's kind of the elephant in the room. What everyone wants to know is, what the heck is the fall going to look like? And so we'll give our best crack at an answer. We'll talk about some financial things, curriculum, and then we'll dive into our Q&A with alumni. So Dorian, I'll pass it on to you to give a little bit of a glimpse of what's going on with COVID. Oh, you're muted.
I just dropped out, so I'm kind of, I lost where you were. Okay, yeah, all of a sudden everybody froze and I suddenly realized it was anyway, so the hope is what we're planning on, what officially has been said is that we're going to restart in-person courses and things in the fall. This is all going to be based on, the public health guidelines and how things are going. We're getting the campus vaccinated, so almost every, now it's opening up, so almost everybody on campus is getting vaccinated, so that should help. We're going to start, of course, with the boot camp and orientation. That will all be online still. That's simply because it's very early in the semester, so it's very likely that the campus will open and there'll be a 2-week window during, sort of for a quarantine thing. But then hopefully classes will open up and be in person, or they might be a hybrid system where some students will be in the classroom and some students will be watching online. That will be both for adjusting for any sort of travel restrictions or any problems getting to campus, as well as people who are nervous or just however, but it's still kind of up in the air, but we're planning right now on having courses in person. There's a lot of up-to-date information on this all the time. It's linked in this slide to the website. There's essentially a portal about COVID and how Berkeley the campus is handling it. And of course, for international students, you want to talk to our international office. Okay. What am I getting at?
Great, thank you. So I'm going to go over some financial issues now, or some financial kind of questions and topics. I want to make sure looks like there's nothing in the chat yet, but feel free to add questions as we go, like I said. So financial support. So as I mentioned in some emails, I've been trying to email all the admitted students about this. Financial awards have already been distributed by the Fung Institute. So if you received any of those, you would have gotten them in your welcome email from the department, kind of saying, congrats, you've been admitted, here's your funding package. Unfortunately, all those awards have been allocated, but there's a possibility that some funding may become available down the road. That's all dependent on essentially like just so many factors. But essentially, if you're interested in learning more about that, go to that Fung New Admits website and check out their FAQ on financial issues. And there's a wait list you can add your name to that you'll be reconsidered if funding does become available in the future. So I recommend that you do that if you haven't got funding and you want to still be considered. If you have any questions directly related to your funding package, how that all works, definitely get in touch with the Fung Institute, and here's the email there. They're a great contact and they'll be able to tell you kind of how the whole process works. Like, okay, we'll give you the award at this time and it will show up in your Cal Central. One thing that's important to note is that these awards are automatically put towards your tuition and fees. It's kind of like applied right before the program starts. So don't expect it to show up quite yet. They'll feel like it's kind of a nerve-wrackingly long amount of time, but it will show up in your Cal Central, and you can follow up with the Fung Institute if you have questions on that. I also put together this guide to financing your MEng degree because I get so many questions about, are there other scholarships, are there things that I can look for? And so I emailed this out, and I encourage you to go check that out. It also has information about on-campus jobs like GSI positions, which is our equivalent of TAs, which are not super common and competitive, but are out there. So you'll find kind of, if you have any questions about financing and jobs and working while studying, please check out that guide. Tuition and fees. So you can find the updated tuition and fees on the Office of the Registrar's website, and they'll always post the most up-to-date information there. So make sure you check that out. That will also give a schedule of when tuition and fees are due. One thing I wanted to make you all aware of is this potential to pay tuition and fees in installments, and that's called a fee payment plan. So instead of paying in one big chunk at the beginning of the semester, you have the possibility to pay kind of in monthly installments. And so that's something to be aware of as you're considering finances and coming up with your budget and just thinking about all that. It's something to be aware of, that it is a possibility. All right, we're going to dive into curriculum now. I'm going to pass it back over to Dorian to talk to you a little bit about that. You're muted, Dorian. Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself to tell you. I'm slow to the draw.
I voted chewing on something over here, so I didn't want it bothering you. Let me know if you hear him.
No, you're fine.
He was chewing on. He started to chew on an electrical cord, so I had to stop and give him something to chew on. So basically, as you know, the MEng is different than a regular master's because we have these leadership and technical. We have these leadership classes and entrepreneurial classes. Those were actually originally designed by our faculty member Lee, who's still the director right now from Harvard Medical School, and those are really good. And they'll be online, and that's part of the requirements. Then there's the technical depth, which is 12 units, and then your capstone experience. Now, in general, you want to try and take your technical classes in terms of your BioE level class, 200 level classes, graduate level classes, and you definitely like those because the graduate level classes actually are pretty much kind of easier than our undergraduate classes. Oh, there was a question. Okay. In the chat, Stephanie.
Let's see.
On the financial.
Financial, residents versus non-residents. Okay, great question. Residents, it means California residents. So if you're a resident of California, there's a lot of information online on the registrar's website about this too. So if you're wondering, if you live in California, basically there's residency requirements for that. But check out the Office of the Registrar's website. Thanks for the question.
Okay, good.
All
so
right.
One of the things about your curriculum that I do want to bring up, if the next slide, is we have all these technical concentrations, but these are just suggestions. You can pretty much take any class you like. This is especially important in the second semester because our graduate classes are often, there are less of them in the second semester, but these are more suggestions. And so any class that you're interested in, especially in bioengineering, you can take for the MEng. If you want to take a class in a different department, you can come talk to me about it, but I have agreements with a lot of the other departments, mechanical, IOR. The only one that is more difficult is if you want to take a class in electrical engineering, computer science. Those are a little bit harder to get into, though I can work on it with you. So if it's a bioengineering class, it works for our program. You can take any of those technical classes you want. If you want to take a class outside, you just come talk to me and figure out what class you'd like, or you can work with me to find one that you like, and we can get you in there, and I'll probably approve it. Okay.
Right.
Next.
So.
And you do want to get your classes enrolled, especially the ones that you think are going to be difficult to get into. But that happens in July, and you have these sort of resources that you will have for finding out. There's the technical academic guide. You can find also, if you come onto the bioengineering website, bioeng.berkeley.edu, you can look under programs and look at the graduate programs and then the MEng. And you'll be able to see that. There's also a BioE teaching plan, which sort of shows what classes will be offered in the future. That for you with 1 year, you should be able to see our fall and spring classes in the Berkeley Academic Guide. But again, There are more courses offered in the fall semester, graduate courses in the fall semester, just simply how our department works. And also remember in graduate school, classes are often only offered once per year. It's rare to have the 2 classes offered every other, they're not going to be offered every semester. So you want to check out the schedule carefully and decide what you want to take. And you may consider taking an extra class in the fall if you really like those classes. Okay. Any comments about that, Steph?
Those are great recommendations, Dorian. Definitely be thinking ahead. The year will go by really fast. So at the very beginning, even before you're starting, it's good to start thinking like, what are the courses I want to ideally take? Are they on the BioE teaching plan? Are they planning to offer them in the next 2 semesters? And even having like a plan B and C, just in case, but it's not a bad idea to think about potentially front loading your bioengineering coursework, depending on what area you're interested in. And as Dorian highlighted, there's a lot of flexibility in what bioengineering courses you take, and even potentially courses outside of the department. So when in doubt, talk to me and Dorian, and we'll be able to help point you in the right direction. So here's like just an example schedule if you were interested in biomaterials and biomedical devices. So this is actually from last year. So these dates for boot camps are not necessarily correct, but the typical layout is you've got your leadership courses, your boot camp before the semester starts. You've got this is another leadership course, communication for engineering leaders and project management and teaming. But then you have here your technical electives, and those are your bioengineering courses, your 200 level bioengineering courses. So a typical kind of like idealized schedule might be that you'd take 2 technical electives in the fall and then 2 in the spring. And as long as those total credits add up to 12 and they're a 200 level graduate level bioengineering course or a course approved by me and Dorian that's in another department, then that will be substantial to meet your bioengineering degree requirements from the department.
The one thing you got to remember is that also there are 2 classes that we have that are very popular. One taught by Sid Husseini, who I was just working in the lab with. He's more from industry. He teaches a 2-unit class, and also David Kern also teaches sort of an entrepreneur class in bioengineering that's only 2 units. So that's where those would be things you might think about adding on in addition to these other technical classes, just to make sure your units are correct.
Yeah, the adding up with the 2 units is a tricky thing sometimes for students. So thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, that's the 2 courses Dorian just mentioned are 252 and 253. Those are the numbers. So definitely look at those. Those have been really popular in the past. All right. Wow, we blazed through that. That's great because I want to make sure we have plenty of time to talk to our lovely panelists.
Let me ask one quick question. There's a weekly schedule. Basically, those units are, the units pretty much equate to how many hours in class you're in. So usually our classes are a max of 3 hours in class, but if it's a 4-unit class, there's usually a 1-unit discussion attached to it. And then the two unit classes are essentially 2 hours per week, and 1-unit classes are 1 hour. So that's sort of how the schedule works out. A lot of the BioE classes are taught on Tuesday, Thursdays. So often they sort of focus on those days. And they're usually an hour and a half each per day. So 3 hours total. Okay, does that answer your question, Brendan?
Yeah, thumbs up, awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, Brett.
All right, so there'll be plenty of time to ask questions now for our wonderful alumni, Gina, Mahir, Leela, and Dennis, who are here with us. And so I wanted to open up the floor and just kind of ask you to give a little bit of an introduction. Like, I'm gonna actually stop sharing so we can see one another, and you can turn your cameras on so all the participants can see you as well. But yeah, tell us a little bit about your experience in the MEng program, and then give us a little glimpse of what you're up to now in your current roles and where you're at.
Sure. So can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? Sorry for the background noise. So hi, I am Mihir. I'm an international student. I'm from India. I was in the MEng class of 2020. I started my MEng in August 2019 and graduated last year in May amidst the pandemic. And then I worked at one of the companies named as RM2 LLC initially when my OPT period started. Then I I interviewed for another company named as Europins, got selected there. And during this process, I was also interviewing for other companies as Genentech and Thermo Fisher Scientific and others. So I got an offer from Thermo Fisher in October, and I joined Thermo in October. That was one of my dream companies, and I'm working here from October onwards. It's going pretty good. The my current work and current role, it is based on more three different types. One is a little bit on biotechnology, like the wet lab analysis, and the other is data analysis part. The data analysis I was able to learn from my capstone project, and the leadership courses, the boot camp, they come in handy because I have been introduced with cross-functional teams, and these teams, you have to face customers and understand what they want, and also drive the product with the product development teams. So it's good. It's going good.
Great. Thank you so much, Mihir, for the introduction. It's great to hear about what you're up to with Thermo Scientific. That's really great. Who would like to go next?
I can jump in.
Great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gina. I want to congratulate you all for your admission to the program. I'm really excited for everyone. And for those of you who I had a chance to speak with during interviews, I'm really impressed by the whole class. And so really great job coming this far. And I applaud your motivation to pursue school during the pandemic as well, because I know it's a really uncertain time right now. I'm also an MEng class of 2021. Yeah. I graduated in May during the pandemic, and I studied bioengineering with a focus on synthetic biology. And what I'm working on now is a startup company, and we make sustainable pet food with insect protein. And the other thing that I co-founded the company while at Berkeley. And then I'm also working for an engineering firm doing contract projects with different biotech companies all around everywhere, because I've been remote doing documentation work for them since I started, and we'll hopefully be able to do some in-person projects starting in June. And then just this month, I also started working as a board member to advise a nonprofit company that's focused on bringing sustainable and holistic healthcare to underserved communities. So that's been a really fun and rewarding project that I'm working on so far.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the intro, Gina. It's great to hear about all the really cool things you're up to. And who would like to go next?
I can go next.
Great.
So hey everyone, my name is Leela. I've graduated a lot less recently than some of the other people on the call. I was in the class of 2015, so this is going to be 6 years since I've been at the program, and I would encourage you to take it as a positive sign that I'm still reading these emails and still coming to these events. So my background is in bioengineering, with my undergraduate degree in bioengineering at UC Riverside, which is another school within the system, and then came over to Cal for graduate school that year. And ever since graduating, I've been at a company based out of the Bay Area in South Bay called Sunnyvale, California, called Intuitive. My company, we make the Da Vinci surgical robotic system, which is a a system to help you perform robotically assisted surgery that's minimally invasive. While at this company, I've bounced around a few different roles, and I've been able to try on a few different hats. What I'm currently working on is I'm a human factors engineer, which is to do with the usability and safety of a medical device when we're working. So as we come up with new products, as we work on improving our previous products, my job is to make sure that I can take account for the surgeons, the nurses, the OR staff that work with our products, and help guide the design of the product such that we can minimize any errors that may be made that have an impact on patient safety. Lots of usability engineering.
Thank you so much for sharing, Leela, and for coming back after, I think it's just so awesome to hear from people who have been out in their jobs for a while too, to see all the different ways that the different things that you're up to in your work at Intuitive sounds really exciting. Thank you for
Very
sharing.
exciting to engage.
Thank you. So Dennis, you'll round us out.
All right. Hi there. I'm Dennis. I'm an international student, or was an international student from Germany, and I graduated from the MEng program virtually last year. So even though I spent half of my time on Zoom University, I really enjoyed the MEng experience, especially the flexibility that the program provides in terms of like the technical classes you can take. So I was really like able to like look like outside of like my concentration and like what I wanted to do, but actually explore a lot of different things. And all the like at Cal, you have so many opportunities available, and it's definitely worth to like look further. And that eventually also led me to my current opportunity. So currently I'm working in New York City as a solutions analyst for Kaya Health, which is a startup in the digital health space. So specifically, we are developing a digital therapeutic for chronic diseases such as chronic pain and also like pulmonary disease. And in my role specifically, I pretty much just wrangle different kinds of health data on a day-to-day basis to generate insights for our clients and also for other prospects. And that is something that I had known nothing about before coming to Berkeley, but it was through my capstone project, which was in digital health, and also through a couple of other courses that I took that I got into the field. And yeah, really excited to be here and share my experience. And again, congrats on all your admissions.
Awesome. So good to hear from you, Dennis, and your role at Kaya. Digital health is here to stay, is what I hear. So I'm glad that you got some experience and exposure to that in the program. So thank you all for the introductions. Maybe we can kick the Q&A off with some questions that have already been typed into the chat. One of the ones that I see is, do students find it beneficial to take classes based on their capstone projects or based on the career or positions they hope to enter post-graduation? Could maybe one or two of you speak to that?
I'll jump in. Oh,
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Just having been out of the program a little bit longer, my perspective on this has actually evolved with passing time. I think you start off with an expectation of what you would like to do. And it sounds like through the program, especially for you, Dennis, you were exposed to additional aspects of this field that you didn't know of before. So for me, what I focused on was trying to keep track of what I wanted to do in the field after I graduated. And then part of that was I viewed my capstone project as an opportunity to be able to learn more about what it would be like to work in this field. So my approach was to take classes and tailor them towards what I'd like to do in the field after I'm done with school. And incidentally, a lot of the classes that I took at Cal did end up actually being really useful with introducing me to how the medical device industry in particular works.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I can add a little bit from like the other perspective. So I basically came in with the mentality, oh, I wanted to go into science and like do a PhD afterwards, perhaps. And so in my first semester, I pretty much chose classes based on like my research in the past. And but while I was at Cal, and especially through my capstone project, I realized, oh, there's like a lot more in the field that's like pretty interesting. So I ended up in the second semester, I chose classes that were not really based on like not really based on what I did before, and kind of like strayed away from my goal. But instead, I took on classes in different topics that would interest me, and especially with the capstone project, I had a growing interest in digital health. So I did take a couple more classes that were more on the digital health side, and also a little more on, I guess, the like entrepreneurship, business sides. So one thing you can also do at Cal as part of the MEng program, you can enroll in MBA classes, which I think is amazing. The Haas Business School offers like a lot of great classes. So one class I took was actually on like recent developments in digital health. So that one was super beneficial in helping me like secure my current role. And these are the things that you have at Berkeley. They have such a huge program variety, and there are a lot of different clubs out there that you can explore. So I think you should also take the opportunity to look beyond what you think you might like or might want to do in the future. But that being said, I think going in with a plan and knowing, okay, I want to take these classes in the fall, these classes in the spring, because that aligns with this role that I want to do in the future is still a very solid plan. And for a lot of people that has worked out. So it's really up to you, but yeah, definitely take the time to explore.
Okay, well, if anyone else wants to kind of circle back to that at any point in time, feel free. Obviously, it's great to hear different perspectives on the same question. Obviously, everyone has kind of their own unique experience, so it's really great to hear from both of you on that.
I would also say that probably one of the things I think the Capstone, I mean, I was in industry for a lot of years, and I went into industry after a master's. One of the things the Capstone will help you with is also interviews with companies, especially because your first job, it's nice to be able to say that you did something. And that really, I think you can ask the other members here, because I didn't take the program, but in general, that helped me at least talk about, what I had done. That's where Capstone really does play a role too.
Yeah, and that maybe feeds in with one of these other questions. Someone actually wanted to hear a little bit more about the capstones you worked on, and then maybe adding on to that, like, how did you manage your capstone work on top of all the other stuff you had to do? Good question, or combination of questions.
I can start on that one. I did a capstone that explored a novel and more efficient way to capture and transport solar energy. So we explored floating solar and looked at the benefits and challenges of that as a kind of growing area in the solar capture field. We were building a kind of like an improved and novel device to float the panels over a body of water, and our prototype got locked in the lab. So we had other aspects of our project that we were working on, and we focused in more on those to do like an industry analysis and a bunch of reports that we wrote up. And so we were just able to adapt with that. But one thing that I really loved about our capstone project was that I was the only bioengineer, and there were 4 other students from 4 other disciplines. So it was a really cool way to bring and bridge the interdisciplinary nature of engineering to a project like that. And you should not have too much trouble balancing the capstone project with your workload, because it's part of the program itself. So you actually have units scheduled in for your capstone, especially in the spring. And it's an expectation that you put in a certain amount of time, because you're essentially taking it as a class.
Yeah, I can add to that, and also wanted to emphasize Gina's point about it being part of your curriculum. So there's really a lot of classes where you actually work on the deliverables for your capstone. So there are like certain like reports you need to complete, or other submissions, and so that's like a really great way to help you like stay on track. And they also give you like pointers on like, okay, like we expect you to be here like at this point. So it's really like a smooth experience. I personally, because I had so much fun taking the classes here, I took about, I think, 40 units across 2 semesters, which is definitely more than you should. And I could say it was still manageable. Like I had about 20 units per semester. So I think 12 is required, what you have. And yeah, it is definitely manageable. I compared to undergrad, I would say that you have more freedom here. So like you can just pick and choose what you like. And I enjoyed taking all my classes, so it didn't feel like it was much of a hassle. And the same thing goes for the capstone project. A little more about the capstone project I worked on. So it was also like in the field of digital health, and actually surprisingly similar to what my current company does. What we did is basically we developed a virtual reality mini game for older adults that should help them in rehabilitation. And it was not a bioengineering like MEng project. So that's, I think, one of the questions that was asked in the chat. You can pretty much choose a project like capstone project from any major. of course, some of the like project leaders have requirements for like, oh, they would prefer candidates from this specific kind of major. But in most cases, the only thing you need to bring is a lot of passion for the project and like a willingness to really work on the project across the whole year. So in my case, I had a huge team, actually 2 teams working on the same project. So it was a really awesome experience. And it's like one of those things where yeah, I was just totally drawn into the field also because it was so fun. It was like developing a game technically, but it also had like health benefits on the side. So as a bioengineer, I could bring in like my expertise from like the more medical and research, or like the research basis for like we were developing, while others that came from like, for example, mechanical engineering or came from IOR were developing more of the like data side of it. And it proved to be super beneficial for the job I'm working in right now, because I also did learn a lot of like data analysis, especially when it comes to health data. And that is something that I do on a day-to-day basis now. So yeah, make sure to choose your capstone project wisely.
Yeah, I would like to add to that. You guys can always pitch in your, like, there will be a list that would be given to you, and you guys can select projects from that list, and you have to justify why you would want to select a particular topic, why have you selected that topic, and how best your role fits for that capstone project. According to that, you'll be given capstone project. It's not compulsory that the capstone project should be completely related to your job or your other courses, because I am more into research kind of role. I'm working as a scientist, and my capstone project was completely based on data analysis. So I was doing data analysis with the use of R and Python, and we were using the medical databases that are present. Every other state has got their own medical database, so we had to contact every state for that. And the project went on by developing a machine learning algorithm, and then slowly we transitioned into data extraction and data analysis. That skill, it is helpful for me in the current role, as my role like it generates a lot of data, and luckily no one in my team knows R, only I know R. So that's one of the positive aspects that I learned from my capstone. Apart from that, other things, you can always choose the MBA classes, as Dennis mentioned, and those will definitely help you to develop your leadership skills, because that is one aspect that you will not find in any of the technical subjects. But you have to develop the leadership skills as well, because they help you in entering into a company. Technical skills will help you after you enter a company, but leadership skills will help you in interviews.
All right, I'm trying to like type and listen, do all things at once. It's been so great hearing about your different capstone experiences. And as you've heard, people work with teams from across the College of Engineering. They're not just projects that are rooted in a very bioengineering specific. You're learning to work with interdisciplinary teams. We got a little bit of insights on what that process is like to select a project. So thank you all for providing that really great insight. Digging through these questions now.
Oh,
There's
one quick
one-
question I can answer real fast since I'm
Yeah.
here. Is the auditing? Yes, you can audit classes if you like. I've never been successful auditing classes because I'm too much of a flake. But what you could do if you really need to take something, you want to take something extra without too much load, is you can always take it pass, no pass. Because then it's a pretty low bar to pass, and but it gives you enough emphasis so that you can actually, you do the homework a bit and stuff like that. Because I found whenever I've tried to audit classes, I've failed miserably. But that's me.
And the auditing process, Dorian, is it, from my understanding, it's just pretty much organized with the professor themselves.
Yeah, you just
like
ask the
student would
professor
just
whether
be
you
like,
can sit in
hey,
on
can I
class.
sit in on your class? And
Mhm.
email them and get in touch. And then it's pretty informal
Right.
thing. Great, thanks for giving us that information. One of the
So
other
there's
ones.
there's no significant difference between the dual MNG MBA program. You're essentially, it's just the time frame, but you're essentially doing sort of exactly the same thing.
I think you take slightly less,
Slightly less.
less leadership classes, but yeah, it's very similar. Ming was wondering if you're able to get your top capstone project choice. What was that process like for you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. No problem.
Well, my answer is very simple, and it's yes. And I don't have a ton of experience with this, but from what I heard when I was applying to match for my capstone project is that you do typically have the opportunity to get your top choice. And I would say maybe scenarios when that doesn't work out is if there aren't enough students to actually form a capstone team. But I think if there's too many students, they can actually split the team. So you're pretty likely to get the choice that you really want.
Yeah, and my experience had been that you got to choose it wasn't everyone's gunning for one project. You get to pick a few projects that you're interested in and kind of establish some sort of hierarchy between those projects. And then based off of availability and then the application that you put in for each of these projects, you get paired with a certain project.
Wonderful. Thank you both for speaking to that. Mihir, did you want to jump in too?
Oh yeah, just choosing a particular project, it is difficult at times. But the variety of projects that, like particularly for bioengineering, I remember I saw around 40 or 50 projects that were listed as a bio student can do. So you have to be patient and you have to go through every project like slowly and understand what's important, because you will be confused between a lot of them and you just have to pick 3 out of all the like 40 or 50 projects that are given. So if you think a particular project has got many students will pitch for that project, if it is a high priority, it's up to you which choice you can put it in, because if you have to give choice number 1, 2, and 3, and you have to justify why you chose that particular topic as 1, 2, or 3. So that depends on how best it fits for your role and where you are.
Great, thank you. There's a question from Zoe a little ways back that I didn't get to. For any of you that are in non-research roles, can you talk a little bit about that transition and how you prepared for it? Any advice about classes to take or how to kind of make that pivot?
Yeah, I can speak to that since I think my path was pretty much that. So I came in with a very heavy research background in undergrad. I was focusing on synthetic biology and yeah, did a lot of lab work. So I was really on that trajectory. And it was only after I came here that I kind of like really pivoted into like the digital health space. So for me, I think the biggest thing that helped me in preparing for interviews and also just in general pitching myself to like potential employers was really the capstone project. So I think one thing you should keep in mind, and also compared to other like applicants, is that the capstone is actually something that gives you something to talk about. It's a deliverable and you have some sort of like product that comes out of it. And that is something that a lot of employers like to see in their application, like in your application. So you have something to talk about. It's at the same time, it's also a very valuable like project management experience, which is something that's very like people like to see that in candidates. So really trying to pitch or like using that capstone project and the project like the topic you're working on as like a central part of like pitching yourself in different situations has helped me a lot in preparing for it. But of course, otherwise, I have also done things that supported that. So basically, after I noticed, oh, I wanted to go into this field, I took on more classes that would align with that. So I actually took on more like computational biology classes in the second semester just to understand the background of it a little bit more. And also like, as I mentioned before, I took an MBA class in digital health, or like that focused more on digital health, and also some other classes that were more on the like data science side, I would say, because I knew that I wanted to go into that direction. And yeah, so it's not too late to pivot. And I think if you have 1 year or even half a year where you're clear about where you want to go, you can definitely take the opportunity and do that at Berkeley.
Yeah, I think I had in many ways a similar experience where in undergrad, I really set my eyes on doing like school and kind of going the research route. And then through after kind of coming to this program, I realized that it wasn't really for me and I really wanted to transition into the industry. But for me, it was not so much discovering what my passion was through the coursework. It was my first introduction was one class that is offered in or was offered in the springtime, which was an introduction to medical devices. It's like bringing medical devices to market, that sort of thing. And that was my first kind of exposure to what the life cycle of a product is as it goes through conception and then the development and then through the FDA process if you're a medical device and then out into the field. And that really sparked my interest and got me interested in that particular industry. And so it was kind of starting out with, like Dennis said, with an open mind about what might be, you know, something that you're interested in. And then through the coursework, you do get a lot of exposure to a few different areas. And that helped me narrow down the choices when I was applying. Not that they were very narrow, I was really looking for a job. So at that point, I was pretty much applying anywhere.
I think it's really powerful to hear stories of people who kind of changed their mind about what they thought, what they wanted to do through your education. I mean, that's essentially a big part of what education is kind of just like broadening your horizons, exploring. It's good to have kind of like a North Star of where you want to head, but then I think it's really great to hear alumni say, but be prepared to be surprised, you know, like maybe you'll take a course and love it, or your capstone project will shift how you think about what you want to do.
Yeah, and then I mean to piggyback off of that, right? Like the role I started off with when I joined Intuitive 6 years ago, it was in, I think Gina talked about documentation. I did a lot of design controls. It was a lot of like strategy relating to submissions with the FDA, that sort of thing, lots of risk management, that sort of thing. And then a couple years in, I realized that I was really interested in the usability aspect of our product development. And I was really interested in developing new products. And I was, and making sure that those were safe and effective for use out in the field. And so your education doesn't end with this program. You just keep your mind and keep yourselves open to see what opportunities present themselves. And also, for the record, I'm also an international student, so I was also kind of under this like compulsion to try and find a position that would, you know, sponsor my visa, sponsor my green card, do that sort of thing. So there's a lot of constraints when you're an international student, and within that framework, if you're able to maintain flexibility and trying to stay open, I think you'll be surprised with where you end up.
Very cool to hear. Thank you for sharing even about, yeah, like your continuing journey and learning and growing. Very, very cool. Let's see if I've missed anything. Am I missing any questions here? Oh, Luam asked, are there any technical skills or courses you deem essential or should be mastered prior to joining? Any recommendations for like getting a jump start before you start the program?
I guess I'll jump in. I think that if there's anything, think about what you want to do after you graduate. This program, it feels like a year is a lot long, but it goes by in the blink of an eye. Like 1 minute you'll be starting and like, I swear 15 minutes later, the program is over. So be really considerate about what you want to do after. And I've said this to students before when I've been at like in-person events. It's, you can't have everything because 1 year is a really, really short time to do a lot. So prioritize. Like some people want to get as much as they can out of the courses and they really learn a whole lot, right? Some people want to put a whole bunch of time into really doing amazing work for their capstone. And these are all valid choices. Some people may choose to dedicate those time and those resources to job hunting. So figure out what your priorities are. And I would say prepare your technical skills in kind of alignment with what your priorities are.
Yeah, I think Leela brought a great point. I think it's less about being prepared for the classes, but it's more about being prepared for the future. So whatever you think might be relevant in your path going forward, be it a more research path or a more career-oriented path, make sure to figure out what like the skills and requirements would be for that, since those require very different kinds of like preparation. Like if you want to go into research, do a PhD afterwards, which is not very common for people that go into the MEng, but I know some people that did go into a PhD program afterwards. You would have to start preparing earlier, since admissions are also for PhD programs are also due like early in the year. So then you have to prepare a lot different from when you're actually looking for a job. And I think one advice I can also give is that when you're job hunting, you're going to be surrounded by a lot of MEng people, and especially people from other departments, also from mechanical engineering and EECS, so computer science, and they often have very different hiring timelines. So like in the fall, you might already be hearing from all these computer science people who are like interviewing very actively with companies, and you just get this like huge FOMO of being like, oh no, like I'm not doing anything. I literally just started. I'm taking my classes and these people are already interviewing with like top companies. Like what's happening? Yeah, that's one thing you should understand. Like hiring timelines are very different in the bio industry as a whole. So don't be frustrated. And I personally really took the first semester to like settle in and like figure out, okay, what do I want to do? What am I more interested in? I took a lot of time, dived in deeper into my capstone project. I think the capstone project is actually a brilliant way to learn a new skill, because it is something you put in quite a lot of time, and you're surrounded by a whole team of other peers, maybe from other departments, but even if not, they might have other skills that you can learn from. And you also have mentors. You have the project leader and like your capstone advisor you can learn from. So it's really a valuable opportunity for you to gain new skills. And so I did that for the first semester, and it was only in the second semester that I started like slowly looking into things and like preparing for interviews and stuff. But that being said, always check out like, okay, what kind of role do I want to go for? There are certain rotational programs at bigger companies like Genentech. I know that still like recruit very early. So you might need to start in the fall. So that was also one of the misconceptions I had. I thought everything would be in the spring, but that's not true either. So I would say our timelines are different. It's in general a little later, but yeah, be sure to keep in mind what kind of role you want to go for, and just really look up really early, okay, what are like the the hiring timelines for that kind of role. And it really like differs a lot in the industry.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that really quickly, if you're interested in consulting positions, right, consulting's recruitment timeline is like August for the following year. So you want to, not exactly August, but plus give or take a month or two. And so you want to be on top of your resume, on top of all of that stuff really early on, if that's something you're interested in. And a lot of people, at least from my class, did end up going that consulting route. And another thing to add for the bioengineering industry, there is no real like recruitment cycle. People just really post positions for when they want to hire. So with a lot of these other companies, to Dennis's point, you'll see a position for the following year, or like starting in September of next year. And those may or may not be positions that you're eligible for. So yeah, don't start from a comparison place, because that's just a downward spiral you want to avoid if you can.
I just want to offer a slightly different perspective on as far as preparations for the program, because if I'm a huge proponent of learning anything you're interested in. If you want to pursue a new coding language over the summer or something like that, that's awesome. But I think my advice as far as what you can prepare for to be successful in the program is to be able to speak up, ask questions, be concise, make good points, really contribute to your classroom environment, and be open to new experiences in the program. So I almost would like give the advice that it's on more of a personal level to prepare and make sure you kind of have a grounding in yourself and who you are, because I think without that, you will have a hard time getting as much out of the program as you could. And it's a really special experience, and you really just want to be 100% for it if you can.
Amazing. Thank you. Here,
Yeah,
did you want to jump into?
Yeah, the only thing that I would suggest is your capstone is your first gateway into the industry. Choose your capstone wisely, because many of the students, they get a very good chance to start their first job with their capstone advisor itself. And that is a very good start, because you have been already working 1 year for that capstone. You know it from the start. You have been working, and you have a good data and everything with you. So when you choose the capstone, you just need to be considerate, and you need to select it wisely, because that would help you to, even if that is not helping you to get good like position or anything, but it will help you definitely to get good contacts. Your capstone advisor will always help you with that.
Thank you all for these amazing nuggets of wisdom and an inside look, even just like beyond the program. It's been really wonderful to hear from all of you and to hear what you're all up to now. It's really inspiring. I've got a couple last questions here, but I'm going to follow up with these people via email with some answers. Really quick answer to Jose's question about part-time. Unfortunately, we're only a full-time option, so you'd have to do it in a year full-time for the bioengineering program. So unfortunately, that's the case. I wanted to quickly, just close my screen down so I can't see anything. I'm going to just do this real quick, talk about a couple of other things that we have going on this week, so that you can continue to get kind of a look at what the bioengineering department is all about. And one of those is the faculty spotlight lecture tomorrow. So we've invited Syed Hosseini, who teaches one of the most popular courses for MEng students, 252 in the fall. And he's going to give a talk about renal dialysis. And so don't miss that. There's a Zoom link on the new ADMIT website. So that should be a really great lecture and a chance to kind of see one of our faculty in action. And the other thing is, Dorian, maybe you can introduce this.
Oh, sure. First I want to say, Syed is actually one of the guys who developed the drug-eluting stent, first for Guyton and then became part of Abbott, and then was their fellow before he became adjunct here. So he's got amazing experience. He teaches a great class where he brings in these amazing faculty or researchers or doctors from around the world. It's really cool. I'm actually setting up so that's Syed. The other one, I'm just made some time on my calendar so that people can sign up, to ask me any questions or whatever. So I blocked off some time, and you can sign up for slots, or jump in or find me. You can always contact me. Also, you can send me a text or call me. My cell phone number is actually on the Berkeley website, and so you can always find me. And you can also, well, we probably don't have BCal yet, but we can set up appointments otherwise at other times if you have any other questions. Okay.
So we just want to thank you, the bioengineering family, and just congratulate you again on your admission into the program. We are so excited to hopefully welcome you this fall, and are here to answer any questions as you're making your decisions. Definitely take advantage of Dorian's time. You get a chance to set up a one-on-one with a faculty member. Go for it. Definitely do it. I send out the information in an email. But otherwise, thank you all so much for joining. We'll be hopefully putting a recording, and I'll send out the slides after the fact. So
thanks so much for the alumni. Thank you for making time.
Yes. Thank you to you for.
It was lovely to talk to you guys.